Hello and welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm so glad that you're back here with all of you today, and I'm truly excited to share this episode, like all of them, with the purpose and passion of this show. Today's guest is someone who is living out both in a powerful way, both passion and purpose. It all started with a simple idea in 2012. What began as building a few bunk beds in his garage for local children has grown into a national and international movement. So joining us is Luke Mickelson. He's the founder of Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Luke is on the mission to make sure that no child sleeps on the floor. Since those first few beds were built, Sleep in Heavenly Peace has grown into an incredible organization that has built and delivered more than 360,000 beds across 48 states and 4 countries. Wow. Luke, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
Yeah, it's really great. What I love about the story is that it didn't just begin with some massive organization or some strategic plan. It was simply you seeing a need. So tell us how it began.
Yeah, it's exactly right. In 2012, I was 35-year-old guy working and coaching football and serving in my church. I lived in a small town, and the beauty about a small town is, you get to know everybody, and the bad part about it is you get to know everybody. But what that brought to me was this. I always grew up with, because you knew everybody, you had this kind of bond with everybody.
Yeah.
You cared, and everybody supported each other for the most part. And so in 2012, I served in my church in a position called a young men's president. Right.
Okay.
So because I coached and I worked with the youth a lot, it made a lot of sense, and I loved it. It's kind of like a youth pastor, but
Yeah.
I'm not a youth pastor. But anyways, no, I had a group of boys ages 12 to 17, and I was mostly responsible for the activities that we do during the week, and we adopted the Boy Scout program, is what the church did. And so basically I was a leader of the Boy Scouts at the time. And part of this position, I would sit in meetings where with other church leaders, and we talk about what's going on in the community. We talk about what the congregation's doing, blah, blah, blah. And also we talk about families that were in need, both in the congregation and in the community. Well, one family in particular they talked about kind of caught my ear because they lived in a part of town that I didn't even know existed. And you gotta remember, I've been riding my bike around this thing since I've been 5.
Where was this, so listeners know? Like, where in the world was this?
It's in a small town called Kimberly, Idaho. It's just outside of a little bit bigger town called Twin Falls, where I live now. But yeah, just a small 4,000, 3,700 town people. My high school I graduated with 69 people. It wasn't the smallest you've ever heard of, but it was a big town.
It's pretty small.
Pretty small. And I loved it, right? In fact, that's why I moved back and lived there for quite a bit. Raised my family there as well. And anyways, I heard about this family in this apartment complex that I didn't know existed. So it really kind of caught my ear. And then one of the leaders talked about, they went into the home to kind of assess what the family needed. And she was the local school bus driver. The father suffered from some mental health issues, just couldn't hold a job. And so, they were on a one income, very low income. They were struggling. And well, the mom mentioned, or not the mom, excuse me, the leader mentioned in passing almost that the kids didn't have any beds. And I said, wait a minute, what do you mean they don't have any beds? Like they're sleeping on the floor? She says, yeah, with blankets. And I'm like, holy cow, really? Like it kind of shocked me, right? At first,
Yeah.
almost didn't believe it. The more I sat on that, the more I thought about it, and I started thinking about my own kids, what that would be like if they're sleeping on the floor day in and day out. And I said, you know what? Me and the Boy Scouts, we're going to take care of this because, not just because we wanted to help children sleeping on the floor, but as a youth leader, especially nowadays, to find an activity that didn't involve an Xbox or whatever,
Yeah.
that's not an easy thing to do. And so I just thought, here's a great opportunity to get a controller out of their hands, put a
Yes.
drill and a sander in it, and I could teach these boys something, right?
That is so cool.
And it was super fun. I went home that night, super excited, went down to my daughter's bedroom, who she slept on a bunk bed we had. I started measuring it, and I made a few tweaks because I'm dealing with, 12-year-old kids. But I came up with a design. And so that week, the boys came over for a couple of nights, and we built this bunk bed. And it was a couple of things happened. I was super excited to see how fun it was for these kids and how they were getting into it.
Yeah.
And that played a role in on Saturday, the day we went to deliver it that evening, because the kids were excited. They shared it with their parents, and they got excited, and they shared it with other members of the congregation, and they got excited. All of a sudden, delivery time came, and there was 20 people that showed up.
So
and
cool.
I was like,
Yeah.
we all can't go over and deliver this this bed to this small apartment. And so I stayed back with a couple other leaders and cleaned up my garage. I mean, it was the first part of Christmas, it was
Yeah.
first part of December. It was cold in Idaho, and I had to park my car somewhere, and so I had to clean up my garage anyways. Well, the next day at church, the boys expressed or told what had happened, right? And shared with me the joys of the kids, and their excitement, and the parents, and I mean, I was super excited for the kids, but I
Yeah.
also felt pretty jealous that I missed out on
Yeah, to like
that.
the feel, like that good feeling, that's
Yeah,
altruism, like being able to see the joy in these kids when they got the bed. I can only imagine.
100%,
Yeah,
and a little bit of the fruits of your own service,
totally.
right? You didn't get to
Yeah,
see the end of it, but I was glad the boys did.
yeah,
So I went home and went back to work, or went back to life rather. And the funny thing was is at the time I had for the past couple of years had been experiencing a real faith crisis. I was experiencing a real lack of purpose.
hmm,
I don't know. You hit that age of your
yeah,
life where you realize, what, this is short lived,
yeah,
and what do I want to be remembered for? What kind of impact am I going to leave behind other than the number of zeros behind my paycheck? That's how I
right,
was measuring success. What a
totally.
stupid thing to do. I guess I was kind of growing up, if you will,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I didn't like it. I was kind of lack of purpose and lack of passion, and then this project come about, and it just filled my bucket instantly. It was just exactly what I wanted to do, and then it was over,
yeah,
and it almost made it worse, right? Because
yeah.
you feel it, and then it's gone again, and this almost depression, if you will, is going to creep back in.
Yeah, I mean, you get these endorphins because it, like,
Yeah,
altruism provides us with some enjoyment and physiologically, and then all of a sudden you crash afterwards because you don't have it. So that's what you're describing there.
one hundred
And
percent.
and then, I mean, so it sounds like that's where then this whole idea, grew, for this sleep in heavenly peace.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I was sitting on the couch going through this in my mind, right? Watching Big Bang Theory with my kids, that was
Hmm.
our program. And they were ages 10 and 6, we had fun. Well, a commercial came on, and it was some Xbox game or whatever. I don't remember what it was, but I remember thinking, you kids better not ask that you want this for Christmas, because I'm not going to get it for you. You
Yeah.
already have one, right? And of course they did. And I don't know, Pete, it just hit me right. I'm
Yeah.
going through this anguish that no one knows about, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting on a good face. I'm trying to give myself pep talks
Like a good football coach.
like a good football coach, right? You fight through it. And
Yeah.
I was just losing the battle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I was losing the battle, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I knew I needed it for myself. I needed it for my family.
Mm.
And here now my kids were complaining about a present that they're not going to get, and I just delivered a bed to a kid that didn't have one.
Have
I
a
mean,
bed.
and I remember, so I just got off the couch. I was like almost upset, right? I just got off the
Mm.
couch and started walking to the garage, and my kids were like, "Dad, where are you going?" Like, Big Bang's on, and I said, "You know what? I've got extra wood. I'm going to build another bunk bed, and you're going to help me."
Yeah.
Right? Because I wanted them to feel the joy, like my Boy Scouts did, of service and what that
Hmm.
feels like, and
Totally.
certainly appreciate the things they had, like a bed, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
and then they were little, they didn't know any better, but we went out and had a ball. A couple of nights that week. I knew how to do it now, at least a little bit, anyways. And I'd never built furniture before, so this was kind of new to me. But I love the challenge. So we built this bunk bed, and I built it because I didn't know. I didn't build it because I knew that child bedlessness was a thing. I
Yeah.
built it for my kids, right, and for us.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to go to a child, just like the first one did. But I didn't know anybody,
Yeah.
and so I was like, I didn't know what to do with it. So my wife at the time said, "Well, why don't you just put it on Facebook, one
Mm.
of the buy sell trade groups?" And I said, "Okay." I was a little reluctant. I wasn't a big Facebook guy, but okay, whatever. Um, but a couple of things happened when I did that. So I started getting posts, comments on this post rather, from people I didn't know, from
Hmm.
people I did know, from people I hadn't talked to for 20 plus years. And they all knew of families that had kids that were sleeping in some of the most
Yeah.
uncomfortable, incredible situations I'd ever read, like sleeping on pallets and sleeping on
Was
cement.
was was this Luke? Was this regional at that point? So like with the Facebook.
No, it was, well, regional is into my own hometown. I mean, it
So
was
what? Oh, so yeah. So it's local.
Kimberly twin, yeah, still
Yeah.
very, very local, right?
And so it breaks your heart when you read that there's more than just this one family.
And right under your nose. Like
Yeah.
we're not from a poverty stricken area. This is Magic Valley is what it's called. It's fairly wealthy. There's a lot of
Yeah.
farming and agriculture, and so I was really shocked at the conditions, and then I was even more shocked at the number of comments and number of kids that were being presented. And then I got a call from a friend of mine. She lived a couple of towns over, and she was in social work, and she says, Luke, I love your project. If you haven't given that bed away, I've got a family that I want to tell you about, and this is my Haley story.
Okay.
So Haley was a 6-year-old girl that had
Mhm.
never slept on a bed. She
Wow.
slept in the backseat of her mom's car. They were homeless,
Yeah.
and my friend helped them get their first, government assisted house here. And so I was excited. I was perfect. I wanted this bed to go to a special family, a situation that really I felt was really needed. And so we packed the bed up and with the mattresses and everything and headed out to this house. Well, when I walked into this house, and Pete, I'd seen homelessness before. I'd seen transitioning homelessness. I'd seen foster care. I'd seen poverty, but I never really looked at those situations through the eyes of a 6-year-old before.
Yeah.
And that's who we were there, right? And so when you
For
walk
Haley.
in, it just felt more heavy to me. I mean, there was nothing in the house. There's no couch or table or anything. There was a hot plate that had a can of soup on it. That was it. That was
Yeah.
dinner.
Yeah.
And but little Haley, you couldn't have told the difference. She was so happy to share this new house that she had, and she pulled us back in her bedroom to show us her bedroom because she had one.
Yes.
That was already just pulling at my heart. And then of course you could imagine what the bedroom looked like, right? Holes in the carpet and tears on the wallpaper. The closet door was gone. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what you've seen these
Sure.
rooms before,
Yeah.
right? But the most shocking thing, the one that just sank my heart, was in the corner of the room was a pile of clothes, and
Mm.
that was Haley's bed.
Yeah.
She'd come home from school, she'd put her PJs on, sleep in her school clothes, and then put them back on for school the next day. It wrecked me. I mean, I just was so.
So wait. So let me just. I mean, that is so powerful, and obviously that is the catapult to 360,000 later. Like, how many volunteers have helped you since 2012? Like, how many different branches are there of this right now?
So when we delivered that bed to Haley and her mom, right? And you got to remember, Haley was so excited when she realized it was a bed. She hugged and kissed it. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And then you look at mom. If your heart's not already melted, you look at mom, single mom,
Yeah.
right? Tears pouring down her face. And I was raised by a single mom too, so I
Yeah.
knew every single one of those tears what they meant.
Yeah.
And I realized it was way more than just a bed, right?
Yeah.
And so when I went back that night, I looked at my friend who helped me and I said, "Listen, no kid's going to sleep on the floor in my team."
Yeah.
And so we started building beds, right? And the interesting thing happened is the more beds we built and the more we shared it on Facebook and the more people started telling us about other kids that they need. So we built more beds. That first year we built 21 beds. The second year, me and my buddy combined Boise and Twin Falls. We kind of made these things called chapters, right?
Yeah.
And so we built 50 beds. And then we had more people that wanted to donate and help. We weren't a charity at the time, so I learned how to become a charity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just the more we did, the more this pandemic of child bedlessness got uncovered and got exposed. And then more people learned what we were doing. And all of a sudden we had family and friends years later that wanted to do it in their hometown. And
So cool.
So we went there and built and then set up chapters. And then we were featured in 2018 on a hit series called Returning the Favor, hosted by the great Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
And we reviewed that episode, got 10 million views. And because of that, we got, over the next couple of years after that, we got 5,000 new chapter requests.
No way.
And oh yeah.
How do you even manage that?
Well, hard.
Yeah, that's not easy. Because you were also on CNN Top Heroes. So was that after?
Yeah. So beginning of 2018, that episode aired.
Yeah.
And then we started getting hit with all these people that want to start chapters. And so they had to come to Twin Falls, Idaho. We taught them how to do it. They went home and started a chapter. So that first year we put on about 125 chapters. And then in December, yes, I was a top 10 CNN hero. there's only 10 of them in the whole world that they pick each year. And I was just lucky to be one. Well, that was another megaphone, right? So we got
Yeah.
another slew of chapter president requests. And it's just built up since then. So today, year to date, or I should say from the beginning of time to date,
Yeah.
we've trained over 430 chapters in 48 states and 4 countries. And like you mentioned, we've built now it's well over 370,000 beds.
Do you see like specific needs based on these regions, or like what are there any commonalities in regions that need or have more bedlessness?
That's the interesting thing. Not really.
Yeah.
When I realized, okay, this seems to be a problem. This is 2013, the year later. I was like, there seems to be a problem. Who else is doing this?
Yeah.
So I went to the internet to find out other nonprofits that were doing this, and I didn't. I found one in North Carolina. That was it. No other established nonprofit, was providing beds for kids. And as we built more and shared more, all of a sudden I started getting calls from CASA and Child Protective
Mm,
Services and all these other agencies that were helping these kids. And I was like their favorite person. And I learned because finding a bed for a child oftentimes is the single hardest thing for them to provide. And I
how
mean,
how much
that
does it
blew me away.
cost? How much does it cost?
So now, right. So the way the program works now is we require a $300 donation, and that provides for all the materials, the wood, the mattress, the sheet sets, the delivery, the whole nine yards. And then we actually run the whole organization off of that $300, which is still cheaper than going and
Totally.
buying it yourself.
Yeah.
They're really expensive. And so, you know, now we use what we call build days.
Yeah.
That's how we build these things. We take the local volunteers, the local people.
Yeah.
Some may have never touched a drill before in their lives. No experience is necessary. And we bring them to a location. We get the wood usually from Lowe's that shows up in big wood bundles.
Yeah.
And we teach volunteers how to use tools, and we assemble them in like an assembly line, right? We
Yeah.
build them, and each station has its purpose. Well, at the end of the day, at the end of the assembly line, you got pieces to a bed, and then we store the beds into
Hmm.
a local storage unit and just wait for applications. And because of that, we now are able to provide the solution to child bedlessness on a local level. Because
Love it.
I knew, Pete, that if we were going to make a real change in our country, if we were going to
Yeah.
provide a solution to child bedlessness, it's not going to be done by some kid from Idaho, right?
Right.
It's going to be solved by the local people. And our
Totally.
mission statement is no kid sleeps on the floor in our town. And most mission statements are meant for the organization to tell the public, right?
Yeah.
Ours
Yeah.
is completely the opposite.
Yeah. I
We
love
want the
that.
public to tell us what they're going to do, because we know it's only going to be solved by the
Yeah.
local.
Well, local people always want to volunteer and they have a hard time finding how to volunteer. So, do you partner with other organizations to find volunteers or just to link them up?
100%. And that
Yeah.
was the biggest shock that I think I didn't expect was, of course, our main mission is to solve child bedlessness, right? For
Yeah. Yeah.
providing beds for kids. But what I didn't know, and what I know now, is kind of a second mission that we provide, and that is providing a service that people can be a part of. And I didn't realize that there was millions of people like myself that wanted to give back and wanted to help. They just didn't know how, right? They didn't know what to do. And oftentimes when they did go serve, they just didn't feel super fulfilled, fulfilling. Well, when you donate your time with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, you work. We tell people the happiest volunteer is the sweatiest and the dustiest, because,
Yeah. It's work.
yeah, it's work. You
Yeah.
want to feel like you made a difference. You want to feel like, you don't want to feel the aches and pains of your hard work for something as powerful as a bed for a child. And I learned that a long time ago. I met a guy named Hank. He was an old guy, and he taught me that valuable lesson, because I wanted to make everything so easy for the volunteers, right? I
Yeah.
want you to come back. And so I didn't want them to feel strained and stressed during the build process. But it's actually quite the opposite. The more that they feel that they worked hard, the more they feel like they made a difference. And they did. I mean, you touch every single piece of wood that goes into making a bed when you're at a
So
build day.
cool. Well, I'm thinking about your kids. They're probably in their 20s now, 14 years later, having watched you build this. I wonder, are they involved, or like, how do they feel about watching all these beds be built?
It's a great question. I get that quite a bit.
Yeah.
The sad truth, I don't know if it's a sad truth. The truth is
Yeah.
they've been a part of it for so long,
Yeah.
and especially at a younger age. I mean, what I love about it is they get to say they helped start SHP because they did in a lot
Right.
of ways, right?
Right.
And so to hear them say, me and my dad's charity, and
Hmm.
that's warms my soul because
Yeah. Yeah.
it gives them a base of giving back. It gives them a base and something that they always have to uphold, if you will. That hey, if you're part of this, then you still help. Now they don't help as much as they used to, obviously, and
Sure.
they're
Well,
grown adults now,
yeah.
but they still have the roots and the history of being a part of SHP.
So how do you envision SHP growing over the next few years?
We grow so fast. We're still putting on 50, 60 chapters a year.
Wow.
And to manage that, I'd like to say we're just now catching up to the support system needed to manage
Hmm.
that kind of growth.
Okay.
And that's still an ever growing challenge because you put on 50 chapters and each chapter has 10, 20 volunteers. That's a lot of volunteers, core team member volunteers. And then you spend a lot of time. We're able to be a lot more proactive now of trying to find large partnerships like Lowe's and Ford Motor Company and
Hmm.
Jockey and these organizations that sponsor us on a national front.
Nice.
We're able to work that and extend their services to help us out. And yes, we partner with a lot of organizations. One of our big partnerships we're going to announce here next month is the Knights of Columbus. They're a
Nice.
worldwide organization.
Yeah.
They just now adopted the bed building program, the Sleeping Heavenly Pieces program, as their main initiative, right? And so those are big organizations. We partner up with Habitat for Humanity. If you go into a Lowe's store right now, as we speak, you know how you can round your dollar up? Store in the country, you round your dollar up, it gets split between Habitat and Sleeping Heavenly Peace.
That is so
So
cool.
it's really cool. It never would have thought that 15 years ago.
From the garage right around Christmas. But it takes a special person, and obviously your background, and even just the emotion you showed here, like just the idea that that's what it takes. You have to be a part of something bigger, and that's the purpose. And it's really beautiful that you've built it into this, and thousands of children are now safe and comfortable place to sleep because of your decision to act. So that's
Well,
really, yeah,
it's a passion thing, Peter.
yeah,
I tell people, listen, I'm just a farm kid from Idaho, and I do that for a reason because I want people to realize you don't have to be a Harvard grad, and you don't have to be, something,
yeah,
I don't know, special. I'm just a dude that likes to help people, and when you find your passion, and mine, just dumb luck, I fell into it, and I'm so grateful for it because it has provided a purpose and a passion that I didn't even know existed. It's led me to other people that have felt the same passion and been able to exercise it. And so these beds get built by amazing people. They're not
yeah.
paid. They work out of the goodness of their heart. Their reward is the smile that you see on these kids' faces, and it's well worth it.
But you missed that first time, but you have it now
Yeah.
14 years later, 370,000 more. So if someone's listening today, Luke, and they either know a family in need or want to be a part of the movement, what's the best way that they can connect with Sleep in Heavenly Peace?
Thanks for asking. Yes. The first step is go to our website, shpbeds.org. Now, the way we have this set up, you're not going to go to some main corporate website. It's not our main website because we changed it because we want everybody to understand this is a local problem. So when you type it in, based on where you live, your local chapter's main page is going to come up, and it's going to tell you a few things. It's going to tell you how many applications they have, how many kids are waiting, how many beds they've built.
Nice.
So it kind of gives you a taste of how the chapter's doing. It gives you a way that you can contact that chapter through Facebook, through a phone call, and if you want to get involved, that's the best way to contact that local chapter. You can donate, and I think it's important to understand. Look, donations is obviously how we survive, right?
Sure.
But I think it's really important. I'm a farm kid from Idaho, Pete. I didn't want this to be some charity you donate money to and you have no idea where it goes and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I had control of setting this up the way I think a charity should be set up. So
Hmm.
when you donate money, you get to pick which chapter it goes to, and 90% of that dollar stays in that chapter, right?
Beautiful.
We have to obviously turn on the lights and pay insurance and stuff
Sure.
like that, but 90%, and it's actually even greater than that when you think about the cost of the chapter itself. So you can donate, and that's where your dollars go. In-kind donations, twin size sheets and pillows and things of that nature.
Nice.
And if you go on there, and this is something that really pulls at your heart, and you don't have a close chapter, you can start a chapter. So we have a start a chapter link there, and it tells you the process of what it's like to be a chapter president, how to get there. We'll fly you once a quarter. We fly people to Salt Lake City, Utah. We actually train them how to run the chapter, and we make it as simple and as easy as possible. We want our chapter presidents to focus in on three things: raising money, building beds, delivering beds. And raising money is the easiest of all three of those, because all you have to do, I tell people, is just tell your story. Tell them, hey, I delivered a bed to little Joe, and let me tell you what happened. And that right there is enough for people to realize what's going on.
Well, we heard about Haley and, all your stories. So thanks so much. I mean, the simple idea, you acted with courage and compassion, and you've really changed lives and make things better. So you are an inspiration.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Pete. I appreciate it. And if I can ask your audience one thing, if you walk away from this, the only thing I would ask is, or the biggest takeaway is, help me raise awareness, right? Child bedlessness represents greater than 3% of the total population. So if you're in a town of 100,000 people right now, there are 3,000 kids sleeping on the floor. And as you and I speak right now, Sleeping Down the Peace has about 160,000 kids on our waiting list. And you can be a part of at least helping families realize that there is a solution to their problem, or actually becoming the solution themselves and donate, but share your experience today. Share this podcast with other people so people can realize that this is a need and that there's a solution.
And all the links will be in the show notes. And thank you so much for being here. And so, like, you heard the call to action, and just check it there, shpbeds.org. Luke, thanks again for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. Thank you for listening at home. If this episode inspired you, please do all the things like follow and share. Everything's at officialdrpete.com. And thank you for spreading meaningful stories like this so that we can really make a difference. I mean, that's a lot of what we try and do on this show. So I'll see you back here next week. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.